Nothing in the gate bias.
There's just one question on the minds of British supporters, and that's, can this team do it? After their punchy performance on Wednesday when they won both races and took the score to 4-2, Ben Ainsley and his team demonstrated that they could have what it takes. Having had a bit of time to digest what happened on that day, it strikes me that there were two significant factors. One, was their ability to fly Britannia in marginal wind conditions and a very tricky sea state. A single touchdown could have changed everything. Admittedly, they were not under any pressure from the Kiwis and could pick their own path and take their time. But we now know that the boat and crew can do it if required, so there's no fundamental weakness here. Two, the second race of the day said a great deal about how this team can fight to gain the upper hand in the pre-start and defend a narrow lead under big pressure. A 7-second margin disappears in the smallest of errors. So as they head out today, they do so with renewed confidence that two key areas can be ticked off, which from a mental point of view helps to free up their headspace. Looking at today's forecast of 7 to 11 knots and a sea state of just under a metre, these are similar conditions that they look comfortable in on Wednesday. The difference today is that after a trough of low pressure went through overnight, the breeze is offshore and the air is much drier, much crisper, making it easier for small thermals to develop over the city. This could well mix up the offshore gradient breeze and make it shifty and puffy, which in turn could make the course a far trickier one to figure out. But if the British can repeat what they did last time and take the score to 4-all going into the weekend, well, enough said. This was the most aggressive start we've seen all summer, as Emirates Team New Zealand bore away hard and aimed straight at Ineos Britannia, who were on port. They didn't quite get to them, but the pair were close and threw in some of the tightest high-speed turns we've seen so far. The tussle was tight, but it didn't deliver any penalties, and with around 30 seconds to go, they both started their march to the line. In the first few seconds, the British, who were to leeward, appeared to have the advantage as they started to put on the squeeze. But a right-hand puff and shift accelerated the Kiwis, handing the advantage to them. When they came together, the Kiwis blocked the British path and defended the right-hand side of the course. It didn't take long for this side to pay dividends, as the Kiwis pulled out a 200-metre lead. The British were able to make a gain and minimise the loss, rounding the top gate 12 seconds behind. On the second upwind leg, Ineos took the right-hand gate and initially looked good as they hooked into a lefty. But the game was short-lived as the Kiwis locked into it as well and cashed in their share of the gain. By the windward gate, their lead was around 24 seconds, and the next downwind leg it had grown to 29 seconds. Once again, they headed for the right-hand side of the course. Once again, this side paid. And as they rounded the top gate for the last time, they were 53 seconds ahead. A Kiwi win looked like it was in the bag. A few minutes later, it was, as the Kiwis took the score to 5-2.
Yeah, we probably didn't expect to do quite that many circles, but you know, they were obviously really obsessed by, you know, trying to follow out to the boundary. We actually felt like we did a pretty nice job, kind of really like that right inside, and went back on some aggressively late times, and that's what gave us that early lead, and nice to be able to capitalise on that.
Yeah, it's been a tough one on the sail choice today for sure. Haven't really seen many of these days here with the breeze coming in, and we got out here and it was 4 knots, and then it's coming nicely, so we're all pretty happy with what we had up. I'm sure we'll assess now and work out if this is going to continue to build or if it's going to drop, but yeah, I'm glad I'm not the one who makes the final call on the sail choices, but yeah, it's definitely a day where Ray and Clouds and all the guys are are working hard as well. So it's a full team effort to get the boat in the right config and for us to race it well.
Yeah, tough race for us. We looked like potentially going to be in reasonable shape off the start line, and the breeze just kicked in hard on the right, and they did a nice job defending that and got a lead, and again just defended the pressure and shift. So that was kind of it, really. So yeah, tough race for us, but we'll keep plugging away and come back, try and get another one back in this next one.
Yeah, I guess we're just working with our weather guys, and yeah, it was obviously tricky one, that one, but we'll be bounced back strong for this next one.
With 30 seconds to go before the start, the talk aboard the Kiwi boat sounded confident as they aimed for the left-hand end of the line. As both boats hit the line, the Kiwis were a couple of knots quicker and headed out to the left-hand side of the course, happy to let the British tack off onto port. By the time they came back together, the Kiwis had gained and were in phase with the gusts and shifts up the right-hand side of the course. Rounding the top gate for the first time, the Kiwis were 15 seconds ahead. But this distance got bigger after Ineos stalled their rudder momentarily, splashed down and gave 10 seconds extra to the Kiwis. At the top gate, Emirates Team New Zealand had extended their lead to 41 seconds. And while the British team managed to haul back some distance and reduce the deficit to 23 seconds, this was the closest they'd get. On the final upwind leg, the Kiwis delivered a textbook performance, stringing the lifts and puffs together perfectly to pull out their lead to around 50 seconds. From here, it was a big ask for the British to come back, and they didn't. Emirates Team New Zealand took their second win of the day. The score was now 6-2. The Kiwis were within a single win of the Cup. Well done today, 2 good solid wins. That was a very aggressive first pre-start though.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, we really enjoy the more unconventional pre-starts when they're on, and there was not a whole heap of wind on that right-hand side of the pre-start, so I don't think anyone really wanted to get out there too early. But yeah, really pleased with the way we managed to execute there, pick a good time to go back, and just get a nice one-win start.
It feels like it looked like the pressure was coming on. It looked like both of you were both doing much tighter turns, much more aggressive manoeuvres. The game's just stepping up and stepping up.
Oh, I think a little bit of that's wind strength. Yeah, definitely you can do so much more when you've got a little bit more thrust like we did today. And it's really cool to see the boats a little bit closer to their potential on a day like today. Obviously not a lot of wind at the top mark, so you're not seeing many peak speeds, but yeah, definitely the boats going around the racetrack pretty quick.
You looked like a different team as well today than you were obviously the day before. How much of it was set up? How much of it was getting in phase with things? How did you make the changes?
I mean, pretty minor changes for us. Yeah, we knew we obviously made a few mistakes on Wednesday. We had a few things we wanted to tidy up, but it was great to go out and execute really well today, get the right sails up, 2 good starts and sail away from there.
We keep hearing that all the way through this event, people have been saying it's all about the start, it's all about the pre-start, and today it looked like all about the first shift.
Yeah, well, I think the pre-start meant you could take the first shift today in a lot of ways. Yeah, we were got the start we wanted both times. Yeah, I think Ineos made life a little bit easier for us than they could have in the first one, giving us a bit more gauge than perhaps they might have. But yeah, really pleased with the way we executed and took the opportunities that came.
Yeah, it was an amazing day for us. Sailed really well as a unit today, and I mean, extremely tricky day with that offshore shifting breeze, and we all read it really well today. So really satisfying.
It certainly looked very polished. The boat, the whole performance looked very polished. The communication sounded different as well. Was that I suppose it's a stupid thing to say, but was that was obviously a deliberate move, but certainly a change in the way that the comms are working?
I think that comes down to the conditions a lot. There was a lot more to talk about today on board. If there's nothing to talk about, we don't really need to talk in those days where it's a little bit more consistent, whereas today there was plenty to talk about how we were going to link those shifts and get up the course in the best route.
And being in phase looked like the absolute key, and you got it right on both starts. You picked the right-hand side the first time, the left-hand side the next time. Was that a product of being sort of in phase well before the start and having a feel for which way it was going to shift?
Yeah, the whole team trying to follow the breeze before the start when we're stopped alongside the chase, and then through that entry period. And yeah, like you said, we got the upper hand on the first shift in both races, which gave us all the options in the world, and then from there we were able to pick and choose our lanes.
Lee, that was a difficult day for the team. What was the biggest issue out there today?
Biggest issue, I guess, I think they just got that critical first shift right. We came out really strong in the starts, and think we did a great job. Really took it to them in those pre-starts, and showed we've made some big gains there, and felt like we had a pretty controlling position in that first start, and the breeze just wound right off the line all the way up that first beat, and they were on that side of us, and it's kind of classic racing, isn't it? It was very shifty. Once they got control, it was incredibly difficult to find a way past. They put the boat in the right place and just controlled the races from that moment. Great job by them. Obviously frustrating for us, but we're still in the game.
How difficult was it to see the phase of the shifts and get in phase with the game?
The pressures obviously, was a bit more obvious to see today, but the phase of the shift, with that was a bit more tricky. You're obviously kind of looking at the forecast as well and trying to hedge a little bit on what's happening on that side of it, and expecting like some different breezes to come in. But yeah, it's it's a super tricky day, and it didn't go our way.
Are you happy with the performance of the boat, or is what we saw the product of the conditions?
I mean, it's really hard to gauge your performance in that stuff. We felt good on the boat, and it was very dynamic in those conditions. A lot of mode changing. Really kind of trying to make the best of all the gusts and all the lulls, and particularly difficult at the top of the course. Right under the shore there, some big kind of holes and squirrely gusts coming down. So trying to pick the best route out of the top was particularly challenging at times. So it was a very different day, but looking ahead to the weekend, again, conditions changing quite a lot, and we look forward to kind of making the best of that. And
it sounded like you might have had a problem with the rudder.
Yeah, we don't know if we maybe picked something up. It was not something that we've experienced. So yeah, maybe we picked something up on the rudder, and it was just causing us a few little issues in that second race. But yeah, it was a little bit distracting, but we kind of just managed it as best we possibly could in that situation. But it didn't really affect the outcome of the race. It was just a bit of a nuisance.
Okay. Have you hit a bit of from a performance point of view? It's been a constant sort of evolution has been going along. Have both boats now, do you think, hit a bit of a glass ceiling on the performance side? Is it all about tactics, handling and boat handling, or is there more that you can still do?
No, I think there's still way more, and today with different conditions, again, for sure we'll go back and we'll figure out a whole load of stuff that we could have done better in those particular conditions when the wind was up and down so much more. Of course, then you're changing gears, aren't you, with your modes and your setup of your sails in particular, and there'll be a huge amount of performance to be found in those conditions.
And how much confidence did you take out of Wednesday, where you seemed to demonstrate that you were good in two very different sets of conditions and racing? That must have been quite a boost.
Yeah, it was a good one for the team, and again we've some areas where perhaps we were really weak when we started out racing here a couple of months ago. Again, the team had done a really good job to analyse that, figure out how to set the boat up better, sail the boat better. So yeah, coming back to this situation we're in, I'm confident that we can keep making performance gains, and we do that and we keep ourselves in the game and we can get faster each race, each day, then why not go all the way?
Any particular conditions you'd like, given the choice? Not that you'll get it.
Waves are quite good for us, I think. Yeah. Waves.
Today's performance was an impressive display by Emirates Team New Zealand. After their stressful day on Wednesday, they'd gone back to base, regrouped and worked on their boat. 40 hours later, the team and the machine that emerged today looked like it was quicker and slicker. But so too was the performance on board. The Kiwi comms was more confident and assured as they got in phase with the conditions in both races. So from here, a match point is either all on or all over. But we might have to wait, because the weekend's weather looks like it'll keep us guessing. one race to go. One more race could decide the America's Cup, the 37th America's Cup. Anybody who's been to an America's Cup before will tell you that when you get towards this point, when you're this close to the cup being won, it's a very strange feeling. You'd expect it to be a big crescendo, but actually quite often it's full of apprehension. Certainly apprehension from the point of view of Ineos Britannia. They are hanging by a thread. They know they cannot make any mistakes from now on to keep their dream alive. And the Kiwis know that they are within spitting distance of actually winning the 37th America's Cup. But at the same time, the memories of San Francisco in 2013 will be in the back of their minds, and they will be concerned about the risk of actually losing it from here, because they've been here before. So they're very tense times right now. And that's one of the things that makes an America's Cup special, because of all the ones I've been to, they've always ended up being this kind of drama at the end.